Did you know the entire movie La Haine was shot in black and white? Not for style, but to hide the poverty? Director Mathieu Kassovitz wanted to show life in the Paris suburbs, but the colors were so bleak, so gray, that color film would have made it unbearable to watch. So he chose black and white to soften the truth, while making it sharper. The film feels like a ticking bomb, following three friends over 24 hours after a riot. But behind the camera, real anger, real fear, and real friendship shaped every frame. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about La Haine. Number 20. The entire film was shot in just 24 days. Mathieu Kassovitz had almost no money, so he filmed La Haine in exactly 24 days. 1 day for each hour in the story. The crew worked fast, often with just one take. If a scene failed, they moved on. The actors slept in the production van. Rain ruined some shots, but Kassovitz kept them anyway. Real weather for a real story. That speed gave the film its raw, urgent heartbeat. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 19. The lead actors were real friends from the streets. Vincent Cassel, Hubert Koundé, and Saïd Taghmaoui weren't just co-stars. They became brothers. Before filming, they spent weeks in the Paris banlieue, suburbs, talking to locals, riding trains, and learning slang. Cassel even got into a real fight to understand his character's rage. Their bond wasn't acted, it was built. When they laugh or argue on screen, you're seeing real trust. That wasn't acting, it was real fear. Number 18. The gun was real and loaded with tension. The revolver that drives the whole story? It was a real Colt Python, but never loaded on set. Still, just holding it made the actors nervous. Kassovitz told them, "That gun is fate. Treat it like fire." In the final scene, when the gun clicks empty, the relief you see in their eyes? Totally real. No one knew if the prop would jam or misfire. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 17. The famous mirror scene was improvised. When Vince stares into the mirror and says, "Look at me, I'm famous," that wasn't in the script. Vincent Cassel came up with it on the spot, inspired by Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. Kassovitz loved it so much, he rewrote the scene around it. The raw arrogance, the fragile ego, it became the soul of Vince's character. Sometimes, the best lines are born in silence before the camera rolls. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 16. The film was inspired by a real tragedy. In 1993, a young man named Makome Mabowale was arrested in Paris, handcuffed, and shot in the head by police while in custody. Kassovitz saw the news and was furious. He wrote La Haine in just 3 days, fueled by grief and rage. The film's opening line, "It's about a society on its way down," was his warning. Art became his protest. That wasn't acting, it was real fear. Number 15. They filmed in actual housing projects, with permission from gangs. The crew shot in real cités, housing estates, where gangs ruled. Before filming, Kassovitz met local leaders and asked for protection. They agreed, but only if the film showed truth, not stereotypes. On set, gang members stood guard to keep peace. One even corrected an actor's accent. Without their trust, the film might never have been made. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 14. The clock ticking is real and symbolic. Every scene is marked by time, 11 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m., leading to the final explosion. Kassovitz wanted viewers to feel the pressure build like a bomb. The ticking isn't just sound, it's fate closing in. Even the sunrise and sunset were timed to match the script. Time wasn't a backdrop, it was the enemy. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 13. The director used hidden cameras in public. To capture real reactions, Cassavetes sometimes filmed with hidden cameras in subways and streets. When Vince yells at commuters or Hubert sells boxing lessons, many people didn't know they were in a movie. Their shock, annoyance, or laughter, all genuine. The crew stayed hidden behind newspapers or fake tourist gear. Reality bled into fiction and made it stronger. That wasn't acting, it was real fear. Number 12. The film's budget was less than a car. Haine cost only 1 million French francs, about 200,000 US dollars. That's less than a luxury car. Cassavetes used borrowed gear, free locations, and favors from friends. He even edited the film in his apartment. Studios said it was too political to fund, but that tiny budget forced creativity and gave the film its gritty soul. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 11. The final line was changed last minute. The haunting ending. It's about a society on its way down, and as it falls, it keeps telling itself, "So far, so good." Wasn't in early drafts. Cassavetes heard the parable from his grandmother and added it days before the premiere. He recorded it himself in a quiet room, whispering like a ghost. That voiceover turned a street story into a warning for the world. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 10. The police in the film were played by real officers. Some of the cops you see harassing the boys were actual Paris police, off-duty, but in uniform. Cassavetes wanted realism, so he hired them as extras, but tensions ran high. During one scene, a real officer got too rough with Saïd Taghmaoui. The crew had to stop filming. The line between performance and power blurred dangerously. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 9. The film was banned in some French schools. After its release, many French schools refused to show Haine, calling it anti-police and dangerous. But students demanded to see it. Some teachers smuggled in VHS tapes. The film became a secret lesson in inequality. Cassavetes said, "If they're scared of my movie, they should be scared of the truth." What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 8. The train scene. Used a real delay. When the three friends ride the train into Paris, the delays in crowded cars weren't staged. The crew filmed during rush hour with real commuters. One woman yelled at Vince for acting crazy, not knowing he was in a movie. The chaos, the heat, the frustration, all real. The city itself became a character. The train wasn't just transportation, it was a border between two worlds, the forgotten suburbs and the polished center of power. Cassavetes wanted viewers to feel that divide in their bones. The actors didn't rehearse their movements. They simply followed the rhythm of real life, pushing through crowds, dodging elbows, staring out windows at a city that didn't see them. That journey wasn't just physical. It was emotional, political, and deeply human. And because it was real, it hurt more. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 7. The boxing gym was a real community center. Hubert's dream of opening a gym wasn't fiction. The location was a real youth center in the 19th arrondissement, run by volunteers who taught boxing to kids to keep them off the streets. After filming, Cassavetes didn't just walk away. He returned with donations, helped repair the roof, and even arranged for new gloves and punching bags. Local kids still train there today. Some of them now coaches themselves. The hope in Hubert's eyes when he talks about his gym, it wasn't just for the screen. It was for real life. In fact, one young boxer from that center later said, "Hubert gave me a dream I didn't know I could have." Cassavetes understood that cinema could do more than tell stories. It could plant seeds. And in that dusty gym, watered by sweat and belief, those seeds grew. The scene where Hubert teaches a boy to throw a jab isn't just a moment in a film. It's a promise that change is possible, one punch at a time. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 6. The opening riot footage was real news clips. The chaotic start of Haine, burning cars, tear gas, screaming crowds, isn't reenacted. It's real footage from riots in the Paris suburbs during the 1980s and 1990s. Cassavetes mixed it with his own shots to show this wasn't one story. It was a pattern. History wasn't background. It was the foundation. He spent weeks in news archives, watching hours of unrest, searching for the exact moment when a Molotov bottle exploded or a mother screamed for her son. He wanted the audience to feel the weight of repetition, how every decade the same anger returns, the same bodies fall, the same promises break. By using real footage, he refused to let viewers say, "This is just a movie." No, this happened. This is still happening. The black and white aesthetic blurred the line between past and present, making the violence feel timeless. And in that blur, the truth became sharper. The film doesn't begin with a scene. It begins with a wound. And wounds don't heal when they're ignored. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 5. The actors didn't know the ending. Until the last day, Cassavetes kept the final scene secret. He told the cast only that something bad happens. On the last day of shooting, he revealed the gunshot. Their shock, real. Their silence, unrehearsed. He wanted their grief to be fresh, not practiced. That's why the final minutes feel like a punch to the chest. But the secrecy went deeper. Even the script supervisor didn't know the full ending. Cassavetes feared leaks would ruin the emotional truth. On the morning of the final shoot, he gathered the 3 leads in a quiet room and read the last pages aloud. Saeed Taghmaoui cried. Vincent Cassel sat in stunned silence. Hubert Koundé asked, "Is this really how it ends?" Cassavetes nodded. "Because in real life," he said, "it often does." That raw vulnerability poured into the final take. When Saeed collapses to his knees, whispering his friend's name over and over, he wasn't reciting lines. He was mourning a future that felt stolen. And in that moment, fiction became a funeral. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 4. The film's title means hate. But also the hate, in French, Haine means both hate and the hate, as if hate is a living thing, walking the streets. Cassavetes chose it to show hate isn't just a feeling. It's a force that grows when ignored. The title appears only once, in the final credits, like a verdict. But the word echoes through every frame, in the clenched fists, the empty stares, the way police cars circle like vultures. Cassavetes once said, "Hate isn't born in the banlieues. It's imported, from the center, from the top, from silence." He wanted the title to haunt viewers long after the credits rolled. And it does. Because the hate isn't just theirs, it's ours. It's the hate we allow by looking away, by calling it their problem, by saying, "So far so good," while the ground cracks beneath us. The brilliance of the title is its simplicity. It doesn't explain, it accuses. And in that accusation, it invites reflection. Not judgment, but understanding. Because understanding is the first step away from hate. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 3. The movie sparked real protests after release. When Haine premiered in 1995, riots broke out in several French cities. Young people held signs saying, "We are Vince, Hubert, and Saeed." Politicians blamed the film for inciting violence. But Cassavetes said, "I didn't create the hate. I just filmed it." The movie became a mirror, and some didn't like what they saw. In Lyon, Marseille, and even Paris, teenagers gathered in theaters and marched afterward, chanting lines from the film. Police were stationed outside cinemas, fearing unrest. Yet in those same crowds, something else emerged: dialogue. Community leaders used the film as a starting point for town halls. Teachers screened it in underground clubs when schools refused. Even years later, during the 2005 riots in France, sparked by the deaths of two boys electrocuted while hiding from police, protesters quoted Haine. The film had become more than art. It was a language for the voiceless. Kassovitz never intended to start a movement, but he gave a generation the words to say, "We exist, we suffer, we matter." And sometimes that's enough to shake a nation. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 2. The director dedicated it to a fallen friend. Kassovitz dedicated Haine to Malik Usakin, a student killed by police in 1986 during a protest. His death shocked France, but was soon forgotten. By naming him in the credits, Kassovitz said, "We remember." The film became a memorial in motion, but the dedication went further. Kassovitz visited Malik's family before filming and asked their blessing. They gave it, and shared letters Malik had written about justice and equality. Those words influenced Vince's fiery speeches. The dedication wasn't just a name on a screen, it was a promise to keep truth alive. Even today, on the anniversary of Malik's death, fans leave flowers at the theater where Haine first premiered. And every time the film screens somewhere new, in Tokyo, in Rio, in Brooklyn, it carries that memory with it. Because remembering isn't passive, it's an act of resistance. And in a world that wants to erase the marginalized, to forget the fallen, Haine says, "Not here, not now, not ever." It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 1. The final shot took 17 takes and 1 real tear. The last image, Saeed's face, frozen in horror after the gunshot, took 17 tries. Saeed Taghmaoui couldn't cry on cue. On the final take, he thought of his little brother growing up in those same streets. A single tear fell. Kassovitz yelled, "Cut, but keep rolling." That tear wasn't for the camera. It was for the future, but the pain didn't end when filming stopped. After wrap, Taghmaoui sat alone for an hour, unable to speak. Kassel and Koundé stayed with him, not as actors, but as brothers. The crew packed up in silence. No one celebrated. They knew they'd captured something sacred and heavy. That final close-up isn't just a performance. It's a portrait of grief that echoes far beyond the screen. It's the look of someone who just realized the world won't change unless someone pays the price. And that price is always paid by the young. Kassovitz later said, "I didn't want an ending. I wanted a question. And that tear, it's the answer we're all still searching for. That wasn't acting. It was real fear." Bonus fact, a hidden message is in the graffiti. Throughout the film, graffiti flashes on walls. Some say Liberté, others Police Partout. But in one alley, barely visible, is the phrase Jusqu'ici tout va bien. So far so good. The film's central warning. Kassovitz had it painted by local artists before shooting. Most viewers miss it, but those who catch it feel the chill. The fall hasn't ended yet. In fact, the phrase appears 3 times, once early, once mid-film, and once just before the climax, each time growing fainter, as if hope is fading. The artists who painted it were teenagers from the neighborhood. They didn't know it would become iconic. Today, fans visit that alley in Paris, now partly renovated, searching for the ghost of those words. Some repaint it themselves, keeping the message alive. Kassovitz never planned for it to be famous. He just wanted a whisper in the chaos. But sometimes, the quietest words scream the loudest. One small choice changed movie history. Haine isn't just a movie about 3 friends. It's about a system that forgets its youth, a society that looks away, and the quiet explosion that follows. It shows that hate doesn't come from nowhere. It's built, brick by brick, silence by silence. But in the bond between Vince, Hubert, and Saeed, we also see hope. That friendship can be a lifeboat in a storm. Their laughter, their fights, their loyalty, they're the antidote to the hate. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to keep falling. but not yet broken. If you enjoyed these stories, subscribe for more. Every movie hides a truth, and we'll keep uncovering them, one story at a time.